Chris Strachwitz, founder and president of Arhoolie Records, is first and foremost an enthusiastic fan of all sorts of folk, traditional, and ethnic roots music, old and new.
Have you ever loved a woman?
He has traveled to many obscure places to record both veteran and youthful musicians performing their vernacular music, as he likes to say. He has reissued classic roots music recordings of yesteryear that were in danger of disappearing into oblivion, and he has introduced those sounds to new audiences on vinyl and again in the 1990s by re-releasing many Arhoolie albums via compact disc. Combine all of that with his role as unofficial archivist, educator, and film producer, and his importance to the world of folk music is immeasurable. The German-born Strachwitz was a teenager when he arrived in California in 1947. Shortly thereafter, Chris became mesmerized by the sound of hillbilly blues and ethnic music on the radio. It didn't take long before he began to collect hundreds of 78 RPM records and became fascinated with the recording process. The roots of Arhoolie were firmly in place. Strachwitz finished college and became a school teacher, but never lost his interest in music or making records. He bought recording equipment and learned more about the recording process from R&B legend Bob Gettings in the early 1950s. Chris's dream was to record blues guitarist Lightning Hopkins, but he had no idea where Hopkins lived. Strachwitz's friend, musicologist Sam Charters, located Hopkins in Houston in 1958, and Chris now says that was like the opening of the pearly gates. He met his blues hero the next year, and by the summer of 1960, Strachwitz made the trek to Texas to record the blues. Although Chris didn't get to make records with Hopkins during that trip, his 1960 foray through rural and urban Texas led to recordings from the likes of African-American blues masters Mance Lipscomb and Lil Son Jackson. These classic blues albums helped fuel the blues revival of the 1960s. Arhoolie Records was born on November 3, 1960, when Strachwitz and some friends sat around his kitchen table and inserted 250 copies of a Mance Lipscomb LP into the album jackets. The label's name means a field holler in the rural South. The blues wasn't Chris's only love, however, and during the 1960s, Strachwitz recorded Cajun and Zydeco music. Arhoolie material by Cajun legends such as the Hackberry Ramblers and Nathan Absher with the Balfa Brothers, as well as Arhoolie recordings of the King of Zydeco, accordionist Clifton Chenier, often reflect the down-home, ebullient personality not just of the music makers, but of Chris Strachwitz himself. His work to preserve and promote the musical traditions of Louisiana was both exceedingly timely and vitally important. As Arhoolie Records grew throughout the 1960s, 1970s, and 1980s, so did its repertoire, still steeped in dynamic vernacular music styles. As well as releasing blues and Cajun material recorded in the South during the late 50s by folklorist Harry Oster, Arhoolie also reissued many classic recordings made from the 1920s to 1960s, covering a wide range of styles like Ukrainian-American fiddling, calypso, flamenco, old-timey, Greek rembitica, and the music of Mexico and Mexican Americans. Norteño, Tejano, Tex-Mex music has always been close to the heart of Chris Strachwitz. He is responsible for making available some of the finest music of the Texas-Mexico border recorded over the past 70 years. Arhoolie's output runs the gamut from reissues of seminal conjunto squeeze boxers from the 1930s post-World War II Tejano orquestas, and classic mariachi bands to new, original albums from the likes of the Meadowlark of the Border, Lidio Mendoza. All the material on Arhoolie's acclaimed 2-CD compilation Corridos y Tragedias de la Frontera First Recordings of Historic Mexican-American Ballads, 1928 to 1937, was remastered and transferred to tape from Strachwitz's personal archive of rare 78s. Chris Strachwitz covers all the bases in his continuing search for new, vibrant music. He has personally recorded or produced new gems by important performers of earlier times like Mendoza, Creole fiddler Conray Fontenot, and hillbilly boogie matriarch Rose Maddox. Throughout the years, his Arhoolie albums have introduced a large audience to the incredible sounds of Zydeco King Chenier, top Cajun band Beausoleil, and prominent conjunto accordionist, ambassador to the world Flaco Jimenez. Recent Arhoolie recordings have featured other excellent, but lesser-known, roots music artists like the Venezuelan Vallento-style accordionist Ivan Cuesta, Afghani lute player Aziz Harawi, and Los Sensontles, a Mexican-American youth group based at a neighborhood cultural center near Arhoolie's home of El Cerrito, California. Strachwitz's interest in experiencing the lifeblood of vernacular music firsthand has taken him into the field on many occasions. Two visual fruits of his travels are the highly praised 1976 documentary films on Mexican-American border music, Chulas Fronteras and Del Mero Corazon, filmed by Les Blank, produced and with sound recording by Strachwitz. And in another film collaboration with Blank, J'ai été au bal, I Went to the Dance, the definitive documentary on Cajun and Zydeco music. When Chris Strachwitz supervises a recording session, he strives to capture the intangibles that make the music special. In the liner notes to blues pianist Katie Webster's Arhoolie album, I Know That's Right, co-producer John Lumsdaine says, making the record was a fast, wild ride, as it often is recording with Chris. We hold on to our hats and try a run. It was a classic Chris session, all love, feel, and contagious energy. And when Chris Strachwitz tells stories about the music he loves and his travels to find musicians in out-of-the-way places, he always radiates an aura of enthusiasm and vitality, a spirit driven by the vibrancy and spontaneity he finds in vernacular roots music. For over 35 years, the music on Arhoolie Records has truly reflected the contagious enthusiasm and spirit of its founder. The recordings bearing the Arhoolie label are a treasure trove of sound that will preserve and promote roots music traditions, thrill and entertain us, and for a long time to come, provide a window on our world.
Nobody said, I know that's right. Prices going up and money going down. I know that's right.